Ethan Callaway had exactly 45 minutes to find a wife. He stared at his phone screen like it might spontaneously combust and take him with it. The message glowed accusingly. Hank Thornton wheels down in SF at 6:30. Can't wait to meet that wife of yours. Morton's at 7. See you both there, partner. Ethan's forehead met his desk with a dull thud. From across the open plan office, his CTO looked up from his monitor. Boss, you dying over there? Marcus called out. Worse. Ethan muttered into the wood grain. I'm about to lose $50 million because I'm an idiot who lies on LinkedIn. Marcus wheeled his chair over. The fake marriage thing, dude. We all knew that would bite you eventually. Ethan's head snapped up. Wait, you knew I made that up? Everyone knows you added married to your profile, literally the day after Thornton said he only backs family men with their priorities straight. Marcus shrugged. We figured you had a plan. My plan was to hope he'd never visit. Well, that worked great. Marcus stood up. You've got like 40 minutes. Better get creative. Ethan blinked. Creative how? I don't know. Hire an actress? Bribe a stranger? Make a deal with someone desperate? Marcus headed back to his desk. You're the CEO. Figure it out. An actress. Hire someone. It was insane, ridiculous, possibly illegal. Ethan grabbed his phone and started searching. 38 minutes later, Ethan had learned that hiring a last-minute actress in San Francisco was harder than getting venture capital funding during a recession. Agency 1 laughed and hung up. Agency 2 required 2 weeks minimum notice. Agency 3 asked if this was for adult entertainment purposes, and disconnected when he said no. He was 5 seconds from a complete meltdown when he spotted her. Sloane Parker sat cross-legged on the lobby floor, surrounded by what looked like an art supply store explosion, fabric swatches, paint chips, and a scale model of something architectural spread around her like she'd claimed this corner as her kingdom. She wore vintage overalls splattered with every color imaginable, beat-up sneakers, and had her auburn hair twisted up with what appeared to be a paintbrush. Steve, listen to me very carefully, she said into her phone, one hand gesturing emphatically at nothing. You cannot have modern industrial and French countryside cottage. That's not eclectic. That's an identity crisis. Pick one or live in chaos. Ethan stopped walking. She was interesting, not conventionally put together. She looked like she'd been doing combat with a craft store, but she was here, roughly the right age, and, most importantly, looked like someone who might need money. He checked his watch. 6:17 p.m., 43 minutes. Excuse me, he said, putting on his best confident CEO voice. Sloane held up one finger without looking at him. Steve, I'm going to be brutally honest. Your taste is terrible. Hire me and trust me, or hire someone else and live with your mistakes. A beat. Perfect. Thursday works. Bye. She ended the call and glanced up. Help you? You're an interior designer. You're a detective. She started stacking fabric samples, waiting for a pitch meeting with Callaway Digital Office Redesign. You work here? You could say that. Ethan's heart hammered. This was insane. But desperate times and all that. I'm going to be direct because I don't have time to be subtle. I need you to pretend to be my wife tonight. Dinner, 7. Few hours tops. Sloane froze mid-stack. Slowly, she looked up at him like he just suggested they rob a bank together. I'm sorry. Did you just say wife? Yes. Morton's Steakhouse. Major investor. Conservative guy. Long story short, I may have implied I was married. He's flying in to meet her. And if I show up alone, I lose a $50 million deal that keeps 40 employees on payroll. Beat. You're messing with me. $10,000 cash right now. Another beat. 15. Sloane said, 125. 15, or you can try Craigslist, buddy. Ethan closed his eyes. There went his Q4 marketing budget. Fine. Deal. Sloane stood and stuck out her hand. Sloane Parker, your temporary fake wife. Ethan shook it, feeling like he was having either the worst idea of his life or the best one. Maybe both. Ethan Callaway. And just so you know, I'm the CEO of Callaway Digital. Sloane's eyes went wide. You're Callaway? The Callaway from the company I'm literally here to pitch? Surprise. I just called my potential client's taste terrible to his face before agreeing to marry him. Fake marry him. Whatever. Technically, you called me a detective first. That doesn't help. Ethan checked his watch. 6:21. We have 39 minutes to turn you into a believable Texas-appropriate wife. Panic later. Sloane looked down at her paint-covered overalls. I need different clothes. I need a time machine. Guess we're both out of luck. 35 minutes later, Sloane emerged from the executive bathroom wearing a navy wrap dress that Ethan's assistant had sprint purchased from Nordstrom, something respectable, traditional, wife-like. And Ethan realized he had a problem. Cleaned-up Sloane Parker was distracting. Without the paint and chaos, she cleaned up into someone who made you look twice. Auburn hair falling in soft waves. Subtle makeup that highlighted green eyes he hadn't noticed before. And the dress fit like it was custom-made. Stop staring, Sloane said, adjusting the simple gold necklace they'd grabbed. You're doing the thing. What thing? The wow, she cleans up nice thing. Don't. I'm still the same person who insulted you 20 minutes ago. I wasn't. Yeah, you were. Sloane grabbed a clutch purse. Ground rules before we do this. 1. Minimal physical contact. Only what's necessary to sell it. 2. If he asks personal questions, you field them. 3. When this is over, you approve my design proposal and refer me to 3 other clients. That's not what we agreed. It is now. 15 grand bought you my acting skills. She crossed her arms. Take it or leave it, husband. Ethan looked at her stubborn, sharp, completely unpredictable, and knew this was going to backfire spectacularly. Deal, he said anyway. Great. Now brief me. How did we meet? Ethan opened his mouth and realized he'd prepared absolutely nothing. You didn't think of a backstory? Sloane's voice went up an octave. I was slightly busy finding a spouse. We have minutes before we meet this guy. Bookstore. Ethan blurted. We met at a bookstore. You dropped a book on my foot. Naturally, I'm the clumsy one. It was charming. Romantic. I helped you pick it up and asked for your number. When? 3 years ago. Wedding date? September. 2 years ago. Honeymoon? Italy. Tuscany. My favorite food? Ethan's brain short-circuited. How would I possibly know your favorite food? We met half an hour ago. If you're my husband, you'd know. Thai food. Ethan guessed wildly. Everyone loves Thai food. I'm allergic to peanuts. Most Thai dishes have peanut sauce. Why didn't you lead with the allergy information? The elevator dinged. Through the glass lobby doors, Ethan spotted a massive black Cadillac, the kind that screamed Texas money. Hank Thornton had arrived early. New plan. Sloane whispered as they walked. We improvise. If he asks something we don't know, we wing it together. Deal. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Got a better idea? Ethan didn't. They pushed through the doors, hands clasped together. His palm was definitely sweating. Or maybe it was hers. And Ethan felt that familiar rush. This is a terrible decision that preceded most of his business moves. A man built like a linebacker in a 10-gallon hat climbed out of the Cadillac, grinning. Ethan, my boy! Hank Thornton had a voice like gravel in a blender, mid-60s, deep tan, and the swagger of someone who'd struck oil twice before breakfast. And this must be the lovely Mrs. Calloway. Sloane squeezed Ethan's hand 3 times. You owe me big. Mr. Thornton, Ethan said, forcing his best confident smile. This is my wife, Sloane. Slow Calloway, she corrected smoothly, extending her hand with a smile that looked disturbingly genuine. It's wonderful to finally meet you. Ethan talks about you constantly. Well, I sure hope it's flattering. Hank boomed, then clapped Ethan on the shoulder hard enough to rattle his teeth. Let me get a look at you, darling. Ethan said you were pretty, but that boy undersold it. Sloane actually blushed, convincingly blushed, and Ethan felt something weird flip in his chest. Now then, Hank opened the Cadillac's door. Let's get some supper. I want to hear the whole story of how you two met. And Sloane, I hope you're hungry. I ordered us the biggest ribeyes Morton's has got. Sloane's eyes darted to Ethan. Ethan's eyes darted to Sloane. She was allergic to peanuts, possibly vegetarian or worse, and now had to eat a massive steak in front of a Texan who probably judged character by meat consumption. I love a good steak. Sloane said with a smile that looked slightly strained. They climbed into the car. Ethan Calloway had exactly 2 hours to not blow everything. Given his recent decision-making, the odds were grim. The Cadillac's leather seats were the nicest thing Sloane had ever sat on, which made it extra unfortunate that she was about to ruin them by sweating through this dress. Hank Thornton twisted around from the front passenger seat, his massive frame making the action look like watching a bear do yoga. "Tell me everything. How'd you two crazy kids meet?" Sloane felt Ethan's hand find hers on the seat between them. His palm was definitely sweating, or hers was. Hard to tell when both of them were panicking. "Bookstore," they said in unison. Hank's eyebrows shot up. "Well, that's synchronized. You two practice that?" 3 years of marriage, Ethan said smoothly, though his grip on Sloane's hand tightened. "You finish each other's sentences eventually." "Oh, that's sweet." Hank grinned. "Which bookstore?" "I love a good romantic story." Sloane's mind went completely blank. She knew approximately 4 bookstores in San Francisco and couldn't remember a single name. The one on she started. "Green Street?" Ethan replied. "Green Street." "Exactly," Sloane finished. "Was there a bookstore on Green Street?" She had no idea. "I was reaching for a book on the top shelf and basically threw it at Ethan's head." "She's exaggerating," Ethan said. "It hit my shoulder." "You said it hit your foot earlier," Sloane blurted, then immediately wanted to evaporate. Hank frowned slightly. "It bounced," Ethan said without missing a beat. "Shoulder first, then foot. Big book. Very heavy. What was it called again, honey?" Sloane's brain screamed. "The Art of Italian Architecture." "Right. Because you were planning our honeymoon even then." Ethan smiled at her, but his eyes said, "What are you doing?" "I'm a planner," Sloane said weakly. "That you are, darling." Hank slapped his knee. "So Ethan, being a gentleman, helped you up?" "I wasn't on the ground," Sloane interrupted. "He helped with the book," Hank continued. "And then what?" "I asked for her number," Ethan said. "He was very smooth about it," Sloane added. "I was not smooth. I was a mess. You were adorable." They looked at each other, and for one weird second, Sloane forgot they were lying. The way Ethan's eyes crinkled when he smiled almost looked genuine. "Young love," Hank bellowed. "I remember when I met Martha, my wife, 42 years ago at a county fair. She beat me at the ring toss, and I knew right then that's the woman I'm going to marry." "That's beautiful," Sloane said and meant it. Speaking of Martha, Hank pulled out his phone. "She made me promise to get a picture of you two. Smile." Sloane barely had time to process before Ethan's arm was around her waist, pulling her close. She automatically leaned into him. He smelled surprisingly good like cedar, and something clean, and smiled just as the flash went off. "Perfect. Martha's going to love this." Hank typed rapidly. "She's been nagging me about bringing y'all down to the ranch for a weekend. Says she needs to meet the woman who finally tied down the Bachelor CEO." Sloane felt Ethan's entire body tense beside her. "That sounds amazing," Ethan said, his voice only slightly strained. "We'd love to eventually. When work slows down." "Work?" Hank waved dismissively. "That's exactly why you need a break. Tell you what, we seal this deal tonight. I want you two in Houston next month." Martha won't take no for an answer. "Next month?" Sloane repeated faintly. "It's a date." Hank turned back around as the car pulled up to Morton's. "Now, let's eat. I'm starving enough to bite the head off a longhorn." Morton's Steakhouse was exactly the kind of place Sloane expected. Dark wood, leather booths, and the distinct smell of expensive beef and older men making business deals. The hostess, a woman named Brittany according to her name tag, lit up when she saw Hank. "Mr. Thornton, your usual table is ready." "Appreciated, sweetheart." Hank gestured broadly. "This is Ethan Calloway and his lovely bride, Sloane. Going to be seeing a lot of them around here once we're partners." "Congratulations," Brittany smiled warmly at them. "How long have you been married?" 2 years, Sloane said. 3 years together, Ethan said simultaneously. They looked at each other. 2 years married, 3 years together, Ethan corrected. "Math is hard." "He's a CEO, not an accountant," Sloane said, patting his arm like she'd done it 1,000 times. "I handle all our important dates." "Smart woman," Hank approved. "Never let the man track the anniversaries. That's a recipe for sleeping on the couch." They settled into a curved leather booth, Sloane sliding in first with Ethan right beside her, close, very close. Their thighs pressed together, and Sloane became hyper-aware of everywhere they were touching. Focus. She needed to focus. A waiter appeared immediately. "Mr. Thornton. Wonderful to see you. Your usual? You know it, Danny. Ribeye, medium rare, loaded baked potato. And bring the same for my friends here. We're celebrating." Sloane's stomach dropped. Actually, Ethan's hand landed on her knee under the table. Warm, firm. The squeeze said, "Shut up." "Actually, that sounds perfect," Sloane finished. "Though maybe medium for me." "You got it, ma'am. And to drink?" "Whiskey." "Neat," Hank said. "Ethan?" "Same." "And for the lady?" Sloane looked at Ethan, who looked back helplessly. What did fake wives of CEOs drink at business dinners with Texas oil men? "Red wine," she said. "Something Italian." "Surprise me." "Excellent choice." Danny vanished. Hank leaned back, clearly in his element. "So, Sloane, Ethan tells me you're in design. Interior design?" "Yes." "Finally, something I can talk about without lying. Residential and commercial. I actually have a proposal meeting with Callaway Digital this week. That right?" Hank looked at Ethan. "You keep business and marriage separate." "Absolutely," Ethan said. "Sloane earned that meeting on her own merit. I recused myself from the selection process." Sloane blinked. That was actually thoughtful and a good lie that made them both look professional. "I respect that." Hank nodded. "Too many folks mix business with pleasure and end up with neither. You two seem to have it figured out." "If only he knew." "We work at it," Sloane said. "Communication is key." "Amen to that." Hank raised his water glass. "To partnerships, business and personal." They clinked glasses, and Sloane took a long sip, wishing desperately it was something stronger. "Now," Hank said, setting down his glass with purpose, "let's talk about the deal. Ethan, I've looked over your proposal. Impressive numbers, solid growth trajectory, innovative platform. But you know what sold me?" "What's that?" "The fact that you're a family man." Hank looked between them. "I've backed a lot of brilliant hotshots over the years. Know what they all had in common? They burned out. No roots, no reason to build something lasting. But you?" He pointed at Ethan. "You've got someone to come home to. Someone who keeps you grounded. That tells me you're in this for the long haul." Sloane felt something uncomfortable twist in her chest. This man was about to invest $50 million based on a complete fabrication. "Sloane keeps me sane," Ethan said quietly. And something in his voice sounded almost real. "I'd be lost without her." Their eyes met, and Sloane forgot her line. "And I'm sure Ethan drives you crazy sometimes." Hank laughed. "What's the biggest fight you two ever had?" Blank. Complete blank. "The kitchen renovation," Sloane blurted. Ethan's eyebrows shot up. "The kitchen? You wanted modern minimalist," Sloane continued, warming to the topic because finally she knew what she was talking about. "All white, clean lines, no personality. I wanted warmth, wood tones, open shelving, actual color. We barely spoke for a week." "Who won?" Hank asked, delighted. "We compromised," Ethan said slowly, clearly improvising. "White cabinets, wood countertops, and Sloane got to pick all the hardware because she has terrible taste in handles. I do not have terrible taste." "You wanted brushed nickel." "Brushed nickel? What's wrong with brushed nickel?" "It's boring." "Safe. The beige of hardware choices." Hank laughed so hard he slapped the table. "You two are the real deal. My wife and I still argue about the color she painted our guest bathroom. Been 15 years. The food arrived, saving them from further interrogation. The ribeye was enormous, probably 16 ounces of perfectly cooked beef that would normally make Sloane's mouth water, except she didn't eat red meat. She'd been pescatarian for 3 years. Sloane looked at the steak. The steak looked back at her, judging. "Dig in." Hank cut into his with enthusiasm. Ethan glanced at her, noticed her frozen expression, and his own knife stopped mid-cut. She saw the realization dawn on his face. She couldn't eat this, but she had to eat this. Sloane picked up her knife and fork, cut a small piece, and put it in her mouth. It was fine texture-wise anyway. She chewed, swallowed, smiled. "Delicious," she said. Ethan's hand found her knee again under the table. This time it felt like solidarity. "So, Hank," Ethan said, clearly trying to redirect attention, "tell us about the ranch. How much land are we talking?" And just like that, Hank was off talking about cattle and property lines and something about a prize-winning bull named Duke. Sloane cut another small piece of steak. This was going to be a long dinner. 2 hours later, Sloane had managed to eat approximately 1/3 of the steak by pushing the rest around her plate strategically, nodding at appropriate intervals and laughing at Hank's stories about Martha's terrible cooking when they first married, how she tried to make chicken fried steak and somehow set the kitchen curtains on fire. The fire department came and everything. "That's terrifying," Sloane said, genuinely entertained despite the absurdity of her situation. "Ah, but she learned. Now she's the best cook in Houston." Hank flagged down their waiter. "Danny, we need dessert. What's the special tonight?" "Chocolate lava cake with vanilla bean ice cream." "Perfect. 3 of those." When Danny left, Hank leaned forward conspiratorially. "All right, Ethan, let's talk numbers. Finally, the actual point of this dinner." Ethan straightened all business. "The $50 million gets you 20% equity, board seat, and—" "I'm in," Hank interrupted. Ethan blinked. "You're what?" "I'm in. $50 million for 20%. I'll have my lawyers draw up the papers tomorrow." Hank grinned. "That's what this dinner was about, son. I wanted to meet Sloane, make sure you weren't some smooth-talking playboy who'd take my money and blow it on cars and penthouses. But you're solid. You've got your priorities straight. So we've got a deal." Sloane watched Ethan's face cycle through shock, relief, and something that looked almost like guilt. That's incredible," Ethan managed. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm going to work you hard." Hank raised his whiskey glass. To Callaway Digital's future, they toasted. Sloane sipped her wine and felt the weight of what they'd just done settle on her shoulders. $50 million based on a lie. "Now," Hank said, setting down his glass. "About that ranch visit next month, I'm thinking the weekend of the 15th. We'll have a proper barbecue. You can meet the extended family. Maybe go riding if you're up for it." "Riding?" Sloane repeated. "Horses, darling. You do ride, don't you?" "Of course," Sloane lied. Because what else was she going to say? Ethan's hand was back on her knee. His grip said, "We'll figure it out later." "Perfect," Hank beamed. "Martha's going to be thrilled. She's been wanting to teach someone her brisket recipe." The desserts arrived, providing a brief reprieve. Sloane took a bite of the chocolate lava cake and nearly moaned. This she could eat. "Someone's enjoying dessert," Ethan murmured next to her, amused. "Quiet, fake husband," she whispered back. His lips twitched. "Yes, fake wife." Their eyes met again, and Sloane felt that weird flutter from earlier. Probably just the wine or the stress, or the fact that she'd just helped commit what might technically be fraud. Nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. The Cadillac dropped them back at Callaway Digital's building at 10:47 p.m. "You two have a wonderful night," Hank said, waving from the window. "I'll be in touch tomorrow." Ethan and Sloane. "Can't wait to see you in Houston." "Looking forward to it," Sloane called back, her smile so fixed her face hurt. They watched the Cadillac pull away. The moment it turned the corner, they both exhaled simultaneously. "We just lied to a billionaire for 2 straight hours," Sloane said. "We did. He's investing $50 million based on a fake marriage." "Yep. And now we have to go to Texas next month to his ranch, where I'll have to ride horses. I don't know how to ride and learn brisket recipes." "That's accurate." Sloane turned to look at Ethan. "Are you freaking out?" "Because I'm freaking out. I'm deeply freaking out." "Good. We're on the same page." They stood there in the empty plaza, the San Francisco fog rolling in, both processing what they'd just done. "For what it's worth," Ethan said finally, "you were incredible in there. The kitchen renovation story. The way you handled the bookstore, question you're a natural liar. That's not the compliment you think it is." "Fair point." He ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I know this got way more complicated than we planned. We didn't have a plan. But I'll figure something out. The ranch visit, the follow-up dinners, he's probably going to want all of it. You won't have to keep doing this." Sloane looked at him, rumpled suit, tired eyes, genuine concern on his face, and made a decision she'd probably regret. How much for the ranch weekend? Ethan's eyes widened. What? You heard me. Because Hank Thornton seems like a genuinely nice guy who's about to give you $50 million because he thinks you're a stand-up family man. If this falls apart, you lose everything. So how much for one weekend in Texas? Sloan? I can't ask you to. 25,000, she said. Plus you approve my design proposal and you personally recommend me to 5 other companies. Take it or leave it. Ethan stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You're serious? Completely. Why would you do this? Good question. Sloan didn't entirely know the answer herself. Maybe because Hank reminded her of her grandfather. Maybe because she'd seen Ethan's face when the deal closed, pure relief mixed with terror. Maybe because she needed the money and the connections more than she needed her dignity. Let's just say I'm invested now, she said. So deal? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he stuck out his hand. Deal. But we do this right. No more improvising. We create a real backstory. Get our story straight. Practice until it's believable. Sloan shook his hand. When do we start? Tomorrow, 6 p.m., my place. Bring questions. He pulled out his phone. I'll text you the address. Her phone buzzed a moment later with the details. This is insane, Sloan said. We're going to get caught. Probably. And yet we're doing it anyway. Ethan smiled, a real smile this time. Tired, but genuine. Welcome to the worst decision of your life, Mrs. Calloway. It's Ms. Parker in real life. Thanks. Right. Sorry, Miss Parker. He started backing toward the parking garage. See you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it. Sloan watched him disappear into the garage, then looked down at her phone. The address glowed on the screen. She'd just agreed to spend a weekend in Texas pretending to be married to a man she'd met 4 hours ago. This was either the best business decision of her life or the beginning of a spectacular disaster. Possibly both. Definitely both. Ethan's apartment was not what Sloan expected. She'd imagined sleek minimalism, all glass and steel and uncomfortable modernist chairs that prioritized aesthetics over actually sitting. Instead, she walked into organized chaos. Bookshelves crammed with everything from tech manuals to science fiction. A worn leather couch that looked actually comfortable, framed concert posters from bands she recognized, and a kitchen that suggested someone who cooked occasionally but not obsessively. This is Sloan trailed off. A mess. Ethan emerged from the kitchen holding 2 bottles of beer. I wasn't expecting company until, well, yesterday. I was going to say human. She accepted the beer. I expected a showroom. This looks like someone actually lives here. Disappointed? Relieved, actually. Means you're not a complete robot. She spotted a guitar case in the corner. You play? Used to. No time anymore. Ethan gestured to the dining table, which he'd covered with printed documents. I made study guides. Sloan walked over and stared. There were spreadsheets, color-coded spreadsheets with tabs labeled Our Story, important dates, shared memories, and something called Couple Quirks. She picked up the first page. You made a presentation about our fake marriage. We have 1 month to become convincingly married. That requires preparation. Ethan pulled out a chair. Sit. We have work to do. You're insane. I'm thorough. There's a difference. Sloan sat, scanning the first page. How we met? He'd written out 3 different versions of the bookstore story with notes on which details to emphasize. Version C seems most believable, she said, pointing. The part about me being on a ladder makes the book dropping more logical. Agreed. That's what I thought too. Ethan sat across from her, clicking a pen. Okay, first question. Siblings? 1 older brother, Marcus. He's a lawyer in Seattle. You? Only child. Parents. Mom's a high school art teacher in Portland. Dad passed when I was 12. Car accident. Ethan looked up from his notes. Something soft crossed his face. I'm sorry. It's okay. Long time ago. Sloan took a sip of beer. Your parents? Both alive. Dad's a retired engineer. Mom was a nurse. They live in Sacramento now. They're intense. Intense how? The kind of intense where my mom calls every Sunday without fail and my dad still asks when I'm going to get a real job despite the fact that I run a multi-million-dollar company. Sloan laughed. They sound fun. They're exhausting. And they're going to want to meet you eventually. Add it to the list. She gestured at his spreadsheet. What else? They spent the next hour going through basics. Favorite movies. His The Matrix. Hers Amélie, college degrees. His Stanford computer science. Hers Rhode Island School of Design. Worst habits his working until 2 a.m. Hers leaving half-finished coffee cups everywhere. How they handle arguments. Apparently, they talk it through like adults, which they both agreed. Sounded fake, but whatever. Okay, Ethan said, flipping to a new page. Pet names. Do we use them? Sloane wrinkled her nose. Do we have to? Hank called his wife Darlin about 40 times at dinner. It's a Texas thing. Fine. But nothing weird. No honey bunch or sugar plum or whatever. Agreed. I was thinking simple honey occasionally. Maybe babe if the situation calls for it. And I'll call you. Sloane considered. Probably just Ethan. Maybe babe if I'm annoyed with you. Why would you be annoyed if we're faking being in love? Because that's realistic. All couples get annoyed with each other. She grinned. It adds authenticity. Ethan made a note. That's actually smart. I have my moments. He looked at her over the spreadsheet, and Sloane felt that flicker again, the same one from the car last night. His eyes were really green up close. When had she noticed that? Next section, Ethan said, clearing his throat. Physical affection. Oh no. We have to discuss it? Do we though? His voice was patient but firm. Married couples touch each other. Hand-holding, casual touches, sitting close. If we're stiff and awkward, people will notice. He was right. She hated that he was right. Fine. What are the rules? Ethan pulled out another color-coded sheet. Of course he had a sheet. I propose a system. Green light, hand-holding, arm around waist or shoulders, sitting close. Yellow light, quick kisses on cheek or forehead, hugs. Red light. Anything more intimate, unless absolutely necessary for the situation. You traffic lighted our fake marriage physical contact. I'm a visual learner. Sloane couldn't help it. She burst out laughing, real, genuine laughter that made her eyes water. You're the most ridiculous person I've ever met. Is that a compliment? I honestly can't tell. She wiped her eyes. Okay, fine. Green, yellow, red. Got it. But we should probably practice. Ethan froze, mid-sip of his beer. Practice? You just said, we'll look stiff and awkward if we're not comfortable. So Sloane stood up and held out her hand. Come on, fake husband. Let's practice not being weird. Ethan stared at her hand like it might bite him. Then slowly he stood and took it. His hand was warm, slightly calloused, probably from typing, maybe from the guitar he didn't play anymore. Her hand fit into his better than it should, fingers interlacing naturally. See, Sloane said, her voice coming out slightly breathier than intended. Not weird. Not weird, Ethan echoed, but he was looking at their joined hands with an expression she couldn't quite read. Now you put your arm around me. Why? Because that's what you did when Hank took the photo, and it needs to feel natural. Ethan hesitated, then slowly slid his arm around her waist. Sloane stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth radiating off him, close enough to smell that cedar scent from the car. How's this? Ethan asked quietly. Good. Natural. Her heart was beating faster than it should for a practice session. We look like a couple. I don't know. I can't see us. Right. Dumb question. But neither of them moved apart. They stood there in his living room, her hand in his arm around her waist, and Sloane became acutely aware of how tall he was, maybe 6'1" to her 5'6", and how her head fit perfectly at shoulder height. We should practice other stuff, she said. What other stuff? I don't know, the cheek kiss thing. Right. Yellow light territory. Do you want to, or should I? Ethan leaned down and pressed a quick kiss to her cheek. It was brief, almost businesslike, but Sloane felt it all the way down to her toes. Your turn, he said, voice rougher than before. Sloane stood on her tiptoes. When did he get so tall? And kissed his cheek. His skin was warm, and he smelled even better up close. And this was supposed to be practice, so why did it feel like something else entirely? She stepped back quickly. Great. We're pros. Totally natural. Completely natural, Ethan agreed, but his ears were slightly red. Should we, Keep working on the spreadsheet? Yes, good idea. Spreadsheet. They sat back down at the table, both very focused on the papers in front of them, and definitely not thinking about how that practice session felt more real than it should have. 3 hours later, they'd covered everything, from her fake favorite vacation spot Tuscany, from their honeymoon that never happened, to his fake proposal story, sunset at Baker Beach, very romantic, completely fabricated. Last thing, Ethan said, fighting back a yawn. It was almost 10 p.m. The ranch weekend, Hank said something about activities, riding horses, barbecues, probably meeting a dozen relatives who will all ask us questions. I meant to tell you, Sloane said. I've never ridden a horse. What? You heard me. I'm from Portland. We had bikes, not horses. Ethan dropped his head into his hands. This keeps getting better. It's fine. How hard can it be? You sit on the horse walks, you don't fall off. That's not how it works. Then we'll take a lesson before we go. Add it to the preparation list. The list is already insane. Then we'll make it work because we don't have another choice. Sloane stood and stretched, her back cracking. I should go. It's late. Ethan walked her to the door. Same time tomorrow. We should practice conversations, work on finishing each other's sentences naturally. You want me to come back tomorrow? We have 3 weeks until Texas. We need every day we can get. Sloane looked at him serious, determined, clearly stressed about pulling this off, and felt something shift in her chest. This was supposed to be a simple transaction, money for a performance, but standing here in his doorway, having spent hours learning his favorite foods and childhood memories, and the way his eyes crinkled when he was trying not to smile, this was getting complicated. Tomorrow at 6, she agreed. I'll bring takeout. You don't have to. If I'm going to spend every evening here learning to be your fake wife, you're going to feed me? His lips twitched. Fair enough. What do you like? Surprise me. But remember, no peanuts. Nothing too heavy with meat. Vegetarian? Pescatarian. Actually, I can do fish. Noted. He leaned against the doorframe. Hey, Sloane. Yeah? Thanks for doing this. For being weirdly good at it. She smiled. Thanks for the weirdly specific spreadsheets. Very on brand for you. Good night, fake wife. Good night, fake husband. Sloane made it to her car before she let herself think about how easily those words had come out, how natural it felt to stand in his space, learn his stories. Practice touching him. She was in trouble. Big, complicated, definitely going to end badly trouble. But $25,000 was $25,000, and she'd committed now. She started the car and drove home, trying very hard not to think about the way Ethan's cheek had felt under her lips. The next 2.5 weeks fell into a rhythm. Every evening at 6, Sloane showed up at Ethan's apartment. They'd eat dinner. He proved surprisingly competent at ordering good food and run through their scripts. Some nights, they practiced conversations. Other nights, they watched movies together on his couch, learning to sit close without it feeling forced. Real couples don't sit on opposite ends of the couch, Sloane had said one night during their Casablanca viewing. Fine. Ethan had moved to the middle, then awkwardly lifted his arm. Is this? Sloane had scooted over and tucked herself against his side. This is fine. It was more than fine. It was comfortable in a way that made her forget this was all pretend. They took a riding lesson at a stable in Marin. Sloane fell off her horse twice. Ethan laughed so hard he nearly fell off his, and by the end they were both sore and ridiculous, and somehow better at this whole fake marriage thing. You scream like a cartoon character, Ethan had said, helping her up after fall number 2. You laugh like a hyena having a breakdown. That specific? I stand by it. On their 18th practice session, Sloane arrived to find Ethan in his kitchen actually cooking. You cook? She asked, surprised. Occasionally. Don't get excited. It's just pasta. He gestured to the stove, where something that smelled incredible was simmering. Figured we should have at least one meal where we cook together. Couples do that, right? In theory. Sloane washed her hands. What can I do? Garlic bread. Ingredients are on the counter. They moved around each other in the kitchen with surprising ease. Sloane prepping the bread while Ethan stirred the sauce. Their movements synchronized without thinking about it. When he needed butter, she handed it to him. When she needed a knife, he passed one over. We're kind of good at this, Sloane observed. At cooking? At being domestic together. Ethan looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. Yeah, we kind of are. They ate at his dining table, the one they'd spent so many nights studying at, and talked about nothing important. Her latest client meeting, his argument with Marcus about code optimization, whether pineapple belonged on pizza, she said yes. He said absolutely not. They agreed to disagree. It felt like a real date, which was dangerous. 1 week, Ethan said as they cleaned up. Then we're flying to Houston. Ready to meet the extended Thornton family? Are you? I know your childhood pet's name, your college roommate's worst habit, and exactly how you take your coffee. I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Ethan dried the last plate, then turned to face her. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why'd you really agree to extend this? The ranch weekend, all these practice sessions, $25,000 is good money, but you could have just taken the 15 and walked away. Sloane considered lying, considered making it purely about the business connections or the money. But they'd spent 2.5 weeks learning to be honest with each other, even if the honesty was about a fake relationship. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure, she admitted. Maybe because Hank reminds me of my grandpa. Maybe because I'm too invested in your company getting that funding now. Or maybe... She paused. Maybe because this is the most fun I've had in years, even if it's completely fake. Ethan was quiet for a moment. It doesn't always feel fake. Sloane's breath caught. No, it doesn't. He stepped closer. Sometimes it feels like the most real thing in my life right now. They stood there in his kitchen, closer than the green light rules strictly allowed, and Sloane knew they were crossing a line they'd carefully drawn 3 weeks ago. Ethan. His phone buzzed loud and insistent, breaking the moment. He checked it and grimaced. It's Hank, probably confirming our flight details. You should answer. Yeah, but he didn't move immediately. Sloane. Answer the phone, she said gently. We'll talk later. Ethan nodded and took the call, walking toward his bedroom. Hey, Hank, how's it going? Sloane exhaled slowly, gripping the edge of the counter. 1 week. 1 weekend. Then this would all be over, and she could go back to her normal life, where she didn't spend every evening with a man she was increasingly having trouble thinking of as fake anything. This was fine. Everything was fine. She was definitely not falling for her fake husband. Definitely not. The Thornton Ranch was not a ranch. It was a sprawling estate that made Ethan's nice apartment look like a storage closet. As their rental car rolled up the mile-long driveway, Sloane counted 3 separate buildings, a massive barn, what appeared to be a guest house, and more land than she'd seen in one place outside of national parks. You didn't mention he was wealthy, Sloane said, gripping her seatbelt. I thought that was implied by the $50 million investment, Ethan replied, but his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. There's rich, and then there's I own a small town rich. This is the second one. Before Ethan could respond, the front door burst open, and a woman with silver hair and a smile that could power Houston emerged. They're here. Martha Thornton was exactly what Sloane imagined a Texas grandmother would be. Big hair, bigger personality, and a floral dress that somehow worked on her. She practically ran down the front steps. Hank, get out here. The kids are here. We're 30, Ethan muttered. We're kids to them. Smile. Sloane plastered on her best fake wife smile and opened her door. Martha reached her first, pulling her into a hug that smelled like vanilla and home. Sloane, I've been dying to meet you. Hank showed me your picture. But you're even prettier in person. Thank you so much for having us, Mrs. Thornton, Sloane said, returning the hug. Oh, honey, call me Martha. Mrs. Thornton was Hank's mother, and she was a piece of work. Martha released Sloane and moved to Ethan, giving him the same treatment. And you, Hank says you closed that deal. Congratulations. Couldn't have done it without Sloane, Ethan said smoothly and reached for Sloane's hand. The gesture was automatic now, 3 weeks of practice making it muscle memory. Hank appeared in the doorway, grinning. Well, don't just stand in the driveway. Come on in. We've got the whole weekend planned. The inside of the house was somehow both enormous and cozy. Wood beams, leather furniture, family photos covering every surface, and the distinct smell of something baking. I made peach cobbler, Martha announced proudly. Hank said you love dessert, Sloane. Sloane had literally never told Hank that, but she wasn't about to argue. My favorite. Good. Now let me show you to your room so you can freshen up. Martha headed for the stairs. We put you in the blue guest room. It's got the best view of the property. Sloane and Ethan exchanged a look. Room. Singular. Of course it was singular. They were married. Married people shared rooms. Neither of them had thought about this. The blue guest room was beautiful. King-sized bed with a quilted comforter, windows overlooking acres of Texas landscape, and absolutely zero sleeping options besides the one bed in the center of the room. Bathrooms through there? Martha gestured. Fresh towels are in the cabinet. Dinner's at 6. But come down whenever you're ready. We're casual folk. The moment she left, closing the door behind her, Sloane turned to Ethan. One bed. I see it. One bed. I have eyes, Sloane. We didn't plan for this. We didn't plan for a lot of things. Ethan dropped their bags. It's fine. I'll sleep on the floor. That floor is hardwood. You'll destroy your back. Then I'll sleep on top of the comforter. We'll make a pillow wall. We're adults. We can handle this. Sloane looked at the bed, then at Ethan, then back at the bed. 3 weeks ago, this would have been unthinkable. Now, after all those movie nights on his couch, after falling asleep against his shoulder during The Princess Bride, after that almost moment in his kitchen, pillow wall, she agreed. Totally mature solution. Great. Ethan checked his watch. We have an hour before dinner. Want to review the family tree one more time? You brought the spreadsheet to Texas? I brought the spreadsheet to Texas. You're unbelievable. You say that like it's a bad thing. Dinner was a production not just Hank and Martha, but Hank's brother Earl and his wife Susan, their daughter Crystal and her husband Wade, plus Martha's sister Dorothy, who kept referring to everyone as dear and speaking loudly because she'd forgotten her hearing aids. So, Sloane, Crystal said brightly, passing the mashed potatoes. Mom says you're an interior designer. That's so creative. Thank you. I love it. And you met Ethan at a bookstore? That's so romantic, Susan gushed. Nothing like these dating apps kids use now. We got lucky, Sloane said, glancing at Ethan, who squeezed her hand under the table. Tell them about the proposal, Martha insisted. Hank said it was at the beach. Ethan cleared his throat. Baker Beach. Sunset. I had this whole plan with candles and flowers, but it was windier than I expected, so half the candles blew out immediately. But it was perfect anyway, Sloane added, warming to the story they'd practiced because it felt real. Just us and the ocean, and this ridiculous man trying to relight candles in the wind. Did you cry? Dorothy asked loudly. Like a baby, Sloane lied. What? Dorothy shouted. She cried? Crystal yelled back. I should hope so. Earl leaned forward. Ethan, Hank says your company's doing great. What's your 5-year plan? And just like that, the conversation shifted to business. Sloane half-listened while demolishing her second helping of brisket. Turns out Martha's cooking was worth the hype, and watched Ethan handle the questions with practiced ease. He was good at this. The confident CEO who had answers for everything. But she'd seen the other side, now the guy who made color-coded spreadsheets and got flustered when practicing cheek kisses and cooked surprisingly decent pasta. She liked both versions, which was a problem. Sloane? Martha's voice cut through her thoughts. You all right, dear? You looked a million miles away. Sorry, just thinking about how beautiful your home is. The color scheme in the dining room is gorgeous. Martha beamed. Oh, you're sweet. You'll have to give me some ideas. I've been wanting to update the living room for years. I'd love to, and she meant it. After dinner, Martha insisted on showing Sloane her garden while the men talked shop in Hank's study. Crystal and Susan joined them, and Sloane found herself genuinely enjoying the conversation about hydrangeas and the challenges of Texas heat. Can I ask you something? Crystal said as they walked through rows of roses. And you can tell me it's none of my business. Sure, Sloane said, slightly nervous. How did you know that Ethan was the one? Sloane's heart did a weird flip. She should have prepared for this question, should have a practiced answer ready. Instead, she heard herself say, he made me laugh. Even when I was having the worst day, he'd say something ridiculous, and suddenly everything felt manageable. And he listened, really listened when I talked about my work, my ideas. He made me feel like what I had to say mattered. Crystal smiled softly. That's beautiful. It was beautiful. It was also describing actual Ethan, not fake husband Ethan. When had that happened? Come on, Martha said, linking her arm through Sloane's. Let's go rescue the men from their boring business talk. They found the men in the study, surrounded by photos of prize cattle and football trophies. Ethan's eyes found Sloane's immediately, and she saw relief flash across his face. There's my wife, he said, and the way he said it made something in Sloane's chest tighten. Missing me already, she teased, walking over to slide an arm around his waist. Green light behavior. Totally normal. Always, he murmured and pressed a kiss to her temple. Yellow light. Also normal. So why did it feel like a red light moment? You two are sickeningly cute, Crystal announced. Wade, why don't you kiss my temple randomly? Because you told me public affection makes you uncomfortable, Wade replied reasonably. Not the point. Everyone laughed, and the evening dissolved into coffee and cobbler and stories about the ranch's history. By the time they headed upstairs, Sloane's face hurt from smiling, and she'd learned more about cattle breeding than she ever needed to know. They're nice, she said as Ethan closed their bedroom door behind them. They really are. He loosened his tie. Makes the lying feel worse, doesn't it? Yeah. They got ready for bed in awkward silence. Sloane changing in the bathroom, Ethan changing while she was gone, both moving carefully around the elephant in the room, the bed. So, Ethan said, staring at it. Pillow wall. Pillow wall. They constructed a barrier down the center of the bed using every available pillow and decorative cushion. It looked ridiculous. This is the worst pillow wall I've ever seen, Sloane said. It's my first one. Cut me some slack. They climbed into bed on their respective sides, the pillow wall between them like the world's most ineffective chaperone. Good night, Ethan said to the ceiling. Good night, Sloane replied to her side of the room. She could hear him breathing, could feel the warmth of him through the pillows, could smell his cedar scent on the sheets. This was going to be a long night. Sloane woke up to sunshine streaming through the windows and the distinct absence of a pillow wall. Also the distinct presence of Ethan's arm around her waist. She froze. They'd somehow migrated to the center of the bed. Pillows scattered across the floor, and they were spooning, full-on spooning. His chest pressed against her back, his face buried in her hair, his arm heavy and warm around her middle. She should move. She needed to move. She didn't want to move. You awake? Ethan's voice was rough with sleep, vibrating against her back. Yeah. The pillow wall failed, I noticed. Neither of them moved. We should probably… Yeah. Still didn't move. Sloane. A knock at the door. You two awake? Breakfast is ready and we're going riding at 9. Martha's cheerful voice called. They sprang apart like teenagers caught making out. We'll be right down, Sloane called, trying to sound normal and not like she'd just woken up in her fake husband's arms wishing it was real. Take your time, dear. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, running his hands through his hair. That was nothing, Sloane supplied quickly. We fell asleep. People move in their sleep. It's fine, right? Fine. Totally fine. So we're good. We're great. They weren't great. They were the opposite of great. But they had 2 more days of this, and Sloane needed to get her head on straight. This was fake. It was all fake. The money, the deal, the practice sessions, all of it was pretend. The fact that she'd slept better in Ethan's arms than she had in months was irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. The horseback riding was both better and worse than Sloane expected. Better because the Thornton horses were gentle and well-trained. Worse because Ethan looked unfairly attractive in a cowboy hat, and her brain was having trouble processing that while also trying not to fall off her horse. You're doing great, Crystal called from her horse beside Sloane's. Much better than I expected for a city girl. We took a lesson before coming, Sloane admitted. Multiple lessons, actually. I may have fallen off twice. Crystal laughed. I like you. You're real. Not trying to be perfect all the time. If only she knew. They rode out to a creek where Martha had packed a lunch. The Texas landscape was surprisingly beautiful, rolling hills, wild flowers, huge sky. Sloane found herself actually relaxing, laughing at Wade's terrible jokes, listening to Earl's stories about growing up on the ranch. Ethan sat beside her on the blanket, their shoulders touching, his hand occasionally finding hers. Each touch sent electricity up her arm. "You two planning on kids?" Susan asked casually while biting into a sandwich. Sloane choked on her water. Ethan patted her back. "We're focused on our careers right now. Maybe in a few years." "Don't wait too long," Martha advised. "Time moves faster than you think." "We'll keep that in mind," Sloane managed, still coughing. On the ride back, Sloane's horse decided to get frisky. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a sudden burst of speed that caught her off guard. She yelped, gripping the reins tightly. Ethan was beside her in seconds, reaching over to grab her reins, slowing both horses. "You okay?" "Fine. Just startled me. Want to head back?" "We can walk them if you're not comfortable." The concern in his voice was real, not fake husband concern. Real Ethan concern. "I'm okay," she said softly. "Thanks for the save. Anytime." Their eyes met, held for a moment too long. Something unspoken passed between them, something that felt like a question neither of them was ready to ask. "Come on, lovebirds," Hank called from ahead. "Let's get these horses back before dinner." That evening, after another enormous meal and several rounds of cards, Sloane and Ethan finally escaped back to their room. "I'm exhausted," Sloane said, flopping onto the bed. "How are we only halfway through this weekend?" "I don't know, but I'm running out of stories about our fake life." Ethan sat beside her. "Susan asked me what kind of wedding we had, and I panicked and said, 'intimate ceremony,' which apparently means she wants to see photos. Photos we don't have." "Photos we definitely don't have," Sloane said, sitting up. "We tell them the photographer lost them. Computer crash. All the files corrupted. We only have phone pics." "You're terrifyingly good at lying." "I'm improvising. There's a difference." Ethan smiled, that real smile she'd grown to recognize, the one that reached his eyes. "For what it's worth, you're the best fake wife I've ever had. I'm the only fake wife you've ever had. Still the best." They sat there on the bed, close enough that she could count the green flecks in his eyes, and Sloane felt the moment shift, felt it become something that wasn't green light or yellow light, but somewhere in the dangerous red zone. "Ethan," she whispered. "Yeah. What are we doing?" "I don't know." His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "But I don't want to stop." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Couldn't make herself care that this was breaking every rule they'd established. Their lips met softly, tentatively, not a fake kiss for appearances. A real kiss for them. Sloane's hands found his shoulders, pulling him closer, his arms wrapped around her waist. The kiss deepened, and she forgot about pillow walls and spreadsheets and the fact that this was supposed to be pretend. It felt real. It felt right. It felt like the beginning of something that would absolutely destroy her when this weekend ended. Ethan pulled back first, resting his forehead against hers. "That was a mistake," Sloane finished, even though she didn't believe it. "Right. A mistake. We're just tired. Caught up in the moment." "Exactly." Neither of them moved apart. "Should we talk about this?" Ethan asked. "Probably." "Are we going to?" "Probably not." "That seems healthy." "Despite everything," Sloane laughed. "We're a disaster. The worst. Want to build another pillow wall?" "Not even a little bit." "Me neither." They lay down together this time without pretense. His arm around her, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "This doesn't change anything," Sloane whispered. "After tomorrow we go back to normal. This was just the weekend." "Just the weekend," Ethan agreed, but his arm tightened around her. Sloane closed her eyes and tried to ignore the fact that her heart was screaming that this was the least just thing that had ever happened to her. Tomorrow they'd deal with reality. Tonight she'd let herself pretend this was real. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of sunshine that felt personally offensive given Sloane's emotional state. She woke up still in Ethan's arms, his face inches from hers, and had approximately 3 seconds of peace before reality came crashing back. They'd kissed. They'd kissed and then agreed to pretend it meant nothing. "You're thinking too loud," Ethan mumbled, eyes still closed. "I'm not thinking anything. You're thinking about last night." "I'm thinking about breakfast." Ethan opened one eye. "Liar. Takes one to know one." He smiled slightly, then seemed to remember their situation and sat up, running a hand through already messy hair. "We should probably talk about—" "Nope." Sloane climbed out of bed. "We agreed. Weekend only." What happens in Texas stays in Texas. That's Vegas. The principle applies. She grabbed clean clothes. Last day barbecue this afternoon. Then we fly home tonight. We just need to get through a few more hours. Right. A few more hours. Ethan looked like he wanted to say more, but Sloane was already heading for the bathroom. She needed space, distance, something to remind her that this wasn't real, no matter how real it felt. The barbecue was a full production, not just the immediate family, but neighbors, friends, and what seemed like half of Houston. Martha had set up tables in the backyard. Hank was manning an enormous grill, and country music played from speakers Sloane couldn't locate. Big finale, Crystal said, appearing beside Sloane with 2 beers. Mom goes all out for Sunday barbecues. Fair warning, people are going to want to know your entire life story. Great, Sloane said weakly. Also, Aunt Dorothy brought her church group. They're very interested in when you're having babies. Even better. Crystal laughed. You'll survive. Just stick with Ethan. You two are cute when you're overwhelmed together. Were they really that obvious? Sloane found Ethan talking to Earl about something tech-related. The moment he saw her, his whole face changed, softened, and he immediately reached for her hand. There you are, he said, pulling her close. Earl was just telling me about the new security system they installed. Fascinating, Sloane lied politely. Earl chuckled. I'll spare you the details, sweetheart. Ethan, come find me later if you want the specs. The moment Earl left, Ethan leaned down. You okay? Why wouldn't I be? Because you've got your fake smile on. The one you used during that first dinner with Hank. Sloane blinked. I have a fake smile? Left corner of your mouth doesn't quite reach. Real smile is more symmetrical. He said it casually, like he hadn't just revealed he'd spent enough time studying her face to notice details like that. You're too observant. Occupational hazard. Before Sloane could respond, Martha descended with a woman who had to be at least 70 and was wearing a bedazzled denim vest. Sloane, this is my friend Patricia. She wanted to meet the girl who finally got Ethan to settle down. Patricia looked Sloane up and down appraisingly. You're prettier than I expected. Good bone structure. How old are you, dear? 29. Sloane answered automatically. Still got time for a few kids then? Patricia nodded approvingly. Ethan looks like he'd make handsome babies. You planning to start trying soon? Sloane felt Ethan's hand tighten on hers. We're enjoying married life first, he said smoothly. No rush. Don't wait too long, Patricia warned. My daughter waited until she was 35 and had to do all that fertility treatment nonsense. Cost them a fortune. We'll keep that in mind, Sloane managed. Patricia wandered off to interrogate someone else, and Sloane exhaled slowly. I need a drink, she muttered. Same. They escaped to the beverage table, grabbed beers, and found a quieter corner of the yard near Martha's rose garden. 5 more hours, Ethan said, checking his watch. Then we're on a plane home. And then what? He looked at her. What do you mean? I mean, we did it. You got your funding. Hank loves us. The deal is closed. So what happens next? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. I guess we go back to normal. You do your design work. I run my company. He trailed off. We what? I don't know. He turned to face her fully. Sloane. Last night was a mistake. She cut him off, even though the words hurt to say. We were tired. Caught up in playing pretend. It doesn't mean anything, does it, Ethan? She forced herself to look at him. This was a business arrangement. Money for a performance. That's all. Is that really all it was for you? No, it wasn't. But admitting that would make everything worse. Yes, she lied. That's all. Something shuddered behind Ethan's eyes. Right, of course. Business. Ethan, there you two are. Hank's voice boomed across the yard. He was walking toward them with his phone out, grinning widely. I've been looking everywhere. Got someone who wants to say hi. He handed the phone to Ethan, and Sloane heard a woman's voice. Ethan? Honey, is that you? Ethan's face went pale. Mom. Oh no. Hank called me. Said you and your wife were at his ranch. Your wife, Ethan. When exactly were you planning to tell your mother you got married? Sloane watched Ethan's expression cycle through panic, guilt, and resignation. Mom, I can explain. I'd love to hear it. And I'd love to meet this Sloane I'm just now finding out about. There was definitely an edge now. Put her on the phone. Ethan looked at Sloane with genuine fear in his eyes. She took the phone. "Hi, Mrs. Calloway. I'm Sloane." "Hello, Sloane." The voice was frosty. "I'm Linda, Ethan's mother, who he apparently forgot to mention his marriage to. I'm so sorry. We wanted to tell you in person." "When was the wedding?" Sloane's mind raced. "September. 2 years ago. 2 years." Linda's voice could have frozen the Texas heat. "You've been married for 2 years, and we're just hearing about it now. We eloped," Sloane improvised desperately. "It was very small. Spur of the moment." "I see. And in 2 years you never thought to mention it? No family dinner? No introduction?" "Mom," Ethan took the phone back. "We were going to tell you. Work's been crazy. And you've been deliberately avoiding us because you knew we'd be upset." Linda cut him off. "We're coming to visit next weekend. We're meeting this wife of yours properly, and you're going to explain why you've been lying to us for 2 years." "Mom, you don't need to. Next weekend, Ethan. We'll be there Friday evening." The line went dead. Ethan stared at the phone. Hank looked between them, clearly realizing he'd stepped in something. "I thought you told them." "I'm sorry, son. I didn't mean to cause trouble." "It's fine," Ethan said automatically. "Not your fault." But the look he gave Sloane said everything was very much not fine. The flight home was quiet, not the comfortable silence they'd developed over weeks of practice, but the heavy, awkward silence of two people avoiding a conversation they needed to have. Sloane stared out the window at the clouds, trying to process. This was supposed to be done one weekend, then back to normal. But now Ethan's parents were coming. More lies, more pretending, more time together, when being together was becoming dangerous. "We don't have to do this," Ethan said finally, his voice low so the other passengers wouldn't hear. "I'll tell my parents the truth. Take the fallout. The truth being that I paid you to pretend to be my wife, to close a business deal. That everything was fake. That I'm sorry for dragging you into this." The word fake hit harder than it should have. "If you tell them the truth, they'll tell Hank," Sloane pointed out. "Deal falls apart. Company's in trouble. 43 employees lose their jobs." "I know. So we keep going." "Sloane, how much for one more weekend?" She turned to face him. "Your parents Friday to Sunday. Same terms as before. I'm not paying you to meet my parents." "Why not?" "It's still part of the arrangement. Because it's different." Ethan's voice rose slightly, then he caught himself and lowered it. "Because this stopped being just business weeks ago, and you know it." Sloane's heart hammered. "Ethan, don't what?" "Tell you the truth that the spreadsheets and practice sessions stopped being about fooling Hank and started being about spending time with you?" He laughed bitterly. "That kiss last night wasn't fake for me, Sloane. None of this has been fake for me." She wanted to say it back, wanted to tell him she felt the same way, that every moment of the past month had become the best part of her day. That waking up in his arms felt more like home than anywhere she'd lived. But this was built on lies. Their entire relationship, if she could even call it that, was a foundation of fraud and desperation and business deals. How could anything real grow from that? "It has to be fake," she said quietly. "Because if it's real, then we're just two people who met because you needed to lie to a billionaire. That's not romantic. That's not some cute story to tell people. It's just sad." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "Is that really what you think?" "I don't know what I think anymore." "Well, let me know when you figure it out." He turned away, effectively ending the conversation. They didn't speak for the rest of the flight. Marcus was waiting in the office when Ethan arrived Monday morning. "How was Texas?" he asked, spinning in his chair. "Did you successfully fool everyone into thinking you're a responsible married adult?" "It went fine," Ethan said shortly, dropping his bag. "Fine, that's it? Come on. I need details. Did you have to, like, hold hands and stuff? Was it weird?" "Marcus, I'm really not in the mood." "Is the wife hot?" Ethan's glare could have melted steel. Marcus held up his hands. "Whoa. Okay, touchy subject. Got it." Ethan sat at his desk and tried to focus on email, tried not to think about how Sloane's face had looked when she said their relationship was just sad, tried not to wonder if she was right. His phone buzzed. "Linda Calloway, your father and I will arrive Friday at 6 p.m. We expect dinner with you and Sloane. No excuses." "Great." Perfect. Exactly what he needed. He should call Sloan, set up the next round of practice sessions, create a new spreadsheet with his parents' information, get back to business. Instead, he stared at his phone and wondered how everything had gotten so complicated. Sloan spent Monday avoiding her phone. She knew Ethan would call eventually to discuss his parents' visit. Knew they needed to prepare, practice, get their story straight. She just couldn't bring herself to answer yet. Instead, she threw herself into work, finished the Callaway digital proposal. It felt weird now designing his office space, picking colors she knew he'd like because she'd spent a month learning his preferences. She had a meeting with another potential client Tuesday. Life was moving forward. So why did it feel like she'd left something important in Texas? Her phone rang for the 5th time. Ethan again. She let it go to voicemail. A text appeared. "We need to talk about Friday." Then another, "Please call me back." And finally, "Look, I know yesterday was complicated, but my parents are coming and we need a plan." Sloan stared at the messages, professional, practical, back to business, just like she'd said they should be. So why did it make her want to cry? She typed back, "Come over tomorrow at 6. We'll prep." His response was immediate. "Thank you." Nothing else. No jokes, no banter, no warmth. This was what she wanted, right? Keep it professional. Keep it fake. It didn't feel like what she wanted at all. Tuesday at 6. Ethan showed up at Sloan's apartment for the first time. She'd given him the address, told him to bring whatever information he had on his parents. When she opened the door, he looked tired, bags under his eyes, hair less perfectly styled than usual. "Hey," he said. "Hey." She stepped aside. "Come in." Her apartment was chaos compared to his organized space. Art supplies scattered across every surface, fabric samples pinned to walls, 3 half-finished design projects visible from the doorway. It was very her. "Sorry about the mess," she said automatically. "It's not messy. It's creative." He set down his laptop. "Your place is great. You don't have to be polite." "I'm not. I mean it." He looked at her, and there was something raw in his expression. "Sloan, can we talk about your parents?" She cut him off. "Tell me about them." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Right. Parents." He opened his laptop, and sure enough, there was a spreadsheet less elaborate than the Hank ones, but thorough. They spent an hour going over details. Linda and Robert Callaway, married 40 years. Linda was a retired nurse, sharp and observant, and apparently terrifying when angry. Robert was a retired engineer, quieter but equally formidable. They lived in Sacramento. They'd be expecting dinner Friday. Probably questions all weekend. "Your mom sounded really hurt on the phone," Sloan said quietly. She is." Ethan rubbed his face. "I'm a terrible son. She's going to see right through this. We'll make it work. We're good at this now, remember? Are we?" He looked at her. "Because it feels like we're terrible at this. The lying, the pretending, all of it. Ethan, my mom's going to ask how we met, how I proposed, what our wedding was like. And I'm going to sit there and lie to her face because I'm too much of a coward to tell her the truth." His voice cracked slightly. "I'm going to lie to my own mother, Sloan, for money, for a business deal. What does that make me?" Sloan's chest ached. "It makes you someone trying to save your company, save jobs. That's not nothing. It feels like nothing right now." They sat in silence. The spreadsheet glowed between them, full of facts and details, and more lies to learn. "We don't have to do this," Sloan said finally. "If you want to tell them the truth and lose everything, Hank's investment, the company's future," Ethan shook his head. "No, we're in too deep now. We finish this." "Okay." She reached across and took his hand. "Then we finish it together." He looked at their joined hands. "I'm sorry for getting you into this, for making it complicated. You didn't make it complicated alone." She squeezed his hand. "I'm here by choice, remember? $25,000 worth of choice." She meant it as a joke, a way to lighten the mood, remind them this was still business. Instead, Ethan pulled his hand away. "Right," he said flatly. "The money. Almost forgot. Ethan, I didn't mean." "It's fine." He closed his laptop. "Should I come back tomorrow? More prep? If you want, I'll text you." He left without looking back, and Sloane sat in her chaotic apartment wondering how she'd managed to say exactly the wrong thing again. Friday arrived like an execution date. Sloane stood in front of her closet trying to decide what one wears to meet their fake in-laws while their fake marriage crumbled around them. She'd barely spoken to Ethan since Tuesday. He'd texted prep information. She'd responded with one-word answers. They were professionals having a professional arrangement. It felt awful. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Parents landing at 5. Dinner reservation at 7. I'll pick you up at 6:30. Sloane. Okay. She stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Wanted to say something more, apologize for the money comment, ask if he was okay, tell him she'd been thinking about that kiss every night since Texas. Instead, she put the phone down and pulled out a green dress that made her feel confident. She was going to need it. Ethan's car pulled up at exactly 6:30. Sloane slid into the passenger seat, and they sat in awkward silence for a full 10 seconds before both speaking at once. Look, I'm sorry about Tuesday. They stopped, almost smiled. Almost. You first. Ethan said, I'm sorry about the money comment. It came out wrong. I didn't mean to make this feel transactional. It is transactional. That's the whole point. But his voice was softer than it had been. I'm sorry for walking out, for making this harder than it needs to be. Your parents are going to hate me, aren't they? Probably. He pulled into traffic, but not because of anything you'll do. They're going to hate that I kept you secret, that I lied for 2 years. We can still tell them the truth. No. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. We can't. Not without everything falling apart. So we do this one more time. One more weekend. Then what? I don't know. They drove the rest of the way in silence. The restaurant was Italian intimate, upscale, the kind of place where conversations echoed and privacy was a myth. Linda and Robert Calloway were already seated. Sloane recognized Linda immediately from the stiffness in her posture and the way her eyes tracked Ethan as they approached. She was petite, silver-haired, and had the kind of face that probably looked kindly until it looked furious. Robert was tall like Ethan, with the same green eyes and a quieter presence that somehow felt more intimidating. Mom. Dad. Ethan's voice was careful. This is Sloane. Linda stood, and for a terrifying moment, Sloane thought she might refuse to shake hands. Instead, she pulled Sloane into a hug. Hello, Sloane, she said, and her voice had that particular quality of someone being extremely polite while also extremely angry. I'm Linda. I would say it's nice to finally meet you, but that would be a lie, wouldn't it? Since my son has been lying for 2 years, Mom, Ethan started. Sit, both of you. Linda released Sloane and sat back down. We're going to have a civil dinner, and then we're going to talk about why my son felt the need to hide his marriage from his own parents. They sat. Robert hadn't said a word yet, just studied them both with those sharp green eyes. The waiter appeared, took drink orders, and vanished. The silence stretched. So, Linda said finally, Sloane, tell me about yourself, since apparently my son won't. Sloane glanced at Ethan, who looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. I'm an interior designer, she started. I grew up in Portland. Studied at RISD. How did you meet my son? At a bookstore 3 years ago. I dropped a book, and he helped me pick it up. And when did you start dating? Right away. We just clicked. Linda's eyes narrowed. And you got married when? September. 2 years ago. Small ceremony, I assume, since we weren't invited. The hurt in her voice was real, and Sloane felt it like a knife. We eloped, Ethan said. It was impulsive. We were in love and didn't want to wait. Impulsive? Linda repeated the word like it tasted bad. You've never been impulsive a day in your life, Ethan. You plan everything. So why exactly would you impulsively elope and then never mention it to your family? Because I knew you'd be upset, Ethan said quietly. About the marriage? About me not being ready, not being settled enough. You and Dad always said I worked too much, that I'd never find balance. His voice cracked slightly. I didn't want to hear I told you so when it inevitably fell apart. Sloane's heart stopped. Linda's expression softened fractionally. Oh, honey. Wait. Robert spoke for the first time, his voice deep and measured. What inevitably fell apart? The marriage. Ethan froze. Sloane watched him realize what he'd said, watched him try to backtrack. I didn't mean. You said when it inevitably fell apart, Robert continued. Not if. When. Like it's a foregone conclusion. He looked between them. Are you two having problems? No, Sloane said quickly. Too quickly. Yes, Ethan said at the same time. Linda set down her wine glass with a decisive clink. Okay. What's really going on? Nothing, Ethan said. We're fine. Just normal marriage stuff. Ethan Michael Calloway. Linda used the full name like a weapon. I have been married for 40 years. I know what normal marriage stuff looks like. And this isn't it. You two barely look at each other. You're sitting like strangers, and you just accidentally implied your marriage is doomed. She leaned forward. So I'll ask again, what's really going on? Sloane felt panic rising. They were caught. Done. Everything was about to explode. We're not really married, Ethan said suddenly. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Sloane's head whipped toward him. Ethan. No. I'm done. He looked at his parents, and his face was full of exhausted guilt. We're not married. We never were. Sloane's not my wife. She's a designer I hired to pretend to be my wife to close a business deal. And I've been lying to everyone for over a month, and I can't do it anymore. Silence. Linda stared at her son like she didn't recognize him. Robert's expression was unreadable. Sloane couldn't breathe. You, Linda, started, then stopped. Started again. You hired her? Yes. For a business deal? Yes. And you've been lying to Hank Thornton, to his entire family, to us? Yes. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. Robert stood up. We're leaving. Dad. You lied to us, Ethan. Looked us in the eye and lied. His voice was quiet, which somehow made it worse. We'll talk when you're ready to be honest. Actually honest. Linda stood too, but she paused to look at Sloane. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Whatever he paid you, it wasn't worth it. Then they were gone, walking out of the restaurant and leaving Ethan and Sloane sitting in the wreckage. They sat in silence for a full minute. Well, Sloane said finally, that went great. Ethan laughed, a broken, slightly unhinged sound. I just blew up my entire life. Why did you do that? Because I couldn't lie to my mom anymore. He dropped his head into his hands. Because I was sitting there watching her hurt, and I realized I couldn't keep doing this, not even for $50 million. Ethan, when Hank finds out, I know, the deal's dead. The company's in trouble. Everything I worked for is gone. He looked up, and his eyes were red-rimmed, but at least he could look at himself in the mirror. Sloane reached across the table and took his hand. I'm sorry. Don't be. This was my choice. My mess. He squeezed her hand. I'll still pay you for Texas. For tonight. All of it. You held up your end. I don't want the money, Sloane. I don't want the money, Ethan. She said it firmly. I never wanted the money. Not really. Then why did you do it? Because. She took a breath. Because you were funny and smart and completely ridiculous with your color-coded spreadsheets. Because spending time with you became the best part of my day. Because somewhere between the first dinner and the pillow wall, I stopped pretending and started falling. Ethan stared at her. What? I'm in love with you, you idiot. The words tumbled out, unstoppable, real. Real love. Not fake wife love. And it's terrifying because it started as a lie, and I don't know how to trust it, but it's real, Ethan. At least for me, it's real. Sloane. And I know I pushed you away. I know I said it had to be fake because I was scared. But watching you just blow up your entire life to tell your mom the truth, she laughed, tears starting. That's the most real thing I've ever seen. Ethan stood up, came around the table, and pulled her to her feet. I'm in love with you too, he said. I think I have been since you called my taste in hardware boring and meant it. That's a weird moment to fall in love. You're a weird person. He smiled through tears. Says the man who makes spreadsheets about relationships, fake relationships, which this isn't. Not anymore. He kissed her right there in the middle of the restaurant. And this time there was no pretending. No performance, just them. Finally honest. Finally real. When they broke apart, Sloane was smiling through tears. Your company's still in trouble, she pointed out. Yeah. Your parents hate you. Probably. Hank's going to pull the funding. Definitely. So what do we do? Ethan thought for a moment. We tell the truth. Call Hank. Explain everything. Take whatever comes. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. And then we figure out how to have a real relationship. One that doesn't involve lying to billionaires. That sounds terrifying. Completely. I'm in. They called Hank from Ethan's apartment, put him on speakerphone, and sat on the couch, the same couch where they'd practiced being married, learned each other's favorite movies, fallen asleep during Casablanca. Ethan? Sloan? Hank's voice boomed through the speaker. What's going on? It's late for a business call. Hank. I need to tell you something, Ethan said. And you're not going to like it. He explained everything. The LinkedIn lie, the fake marriage, Sloan's involvement, Texas, all of it. The silence on the other end was deafening. So let me get this straight, Hank said finally. You lied about being married to close my deal. Yes. Brought a woman you just met to my ranch and had her pretend to be your wife. Yes. Lied to my wife, my family, everyone. Yes. Ethan's voice was steady despite everything. And I'm sorry, Hank. I'm genuinely sorry. It was wrong. I was desperate and scared. And I made a terrible decision. More silence. You know what the really stupid thing is? Hank said. Your platform is actually brilliant. Your team is solid. Your business plan is sound. I would have invested anyway. Ethan blinked. What? I made the family man thing a priority because I've backed too many hotshots who imploded. But you've got integrity. Just proved it by calling me to confess when you could have kept lying. Hank chuckled. You're a terrible liar, son. But you're a good man. I don't understand. The deal's still on. Same terms. But Ethan. Yes? Don't lie to me again. I value honesty over perfection. I won't. I promise. Good. Now about Sloan. You really love her? For real this time? Ethan looked at Sloan, who was staring at the phone in shock. Yeah, for real. Then you better treat her right or Martha and I will have words. She really liked that girl. The sound of Martha's voice in the background. Tell them they're coming back for Christmas. Hank laughed. You heard the woman. Christmas at the ranch. And Sloan bring design ideas for the guest house. Martha wants a renovation. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Sloan's voice was shaky. Don't thank me. Just build a great company and be happy. That's all I ever wanted. A pause. And Ethan, call your mother. She's probably worried. The line went dead. Sloan and Ethan stared at each other. Did that just happen? Sloan asked. I think so. He still wants to invest? Apparently. Even after everything? I don't understand it either. They started laughing, real, gasping, relief laughter. Ethan pulled Sloan into his arms, and she buried her face in his shoulder. We're the luckiest idiots alive, she said. I still need to call my parents, Ethan said after a moment. That's going to be rough. Want to come with me for moral support? To Sacramento? Tomorrow we'll drive up. I'll grovel. You can charm them with your design expertise. Sloan pulled back to look at him. You want me to meet your parents for real? I want you to meet them as my actual girlfriend, not my fake wife. Just you. He kissed her forehead. If you want to. No pressure, no payment, just because I'd really like my mom to know the person I'm in love with. When you put it that way, Sloan smiled. Yeah. Let's go meet your parents. The drive to Sacramento the next morning was entirely different from the tense silences before. They talked, really talked, about what they wanted, where this was going, how to navigate a relationship that started with elaborate lies but somehow became the most honest thing in either of their lives. We should probably go on an actual date, Ethan said as they passed Davis. Like a normal couple, we've had plenty of dates. Those were practice sessions. They felt like dates to me. That's because we were falling in love during them. Sloan grinned. True. Okay, fine. Where would you take me on a real first date? Bookstore, obviously. Because of our fake meet cute story. No, because I've seen your apartment. You're a reader. I want to watch you get excited about books and then buy you coffee and hear about all the designs you're working on. He glanced at her. Real stuff. No scripts. That sounds perfect. Tomorrow night, it's a date. They pulled up to his parents' house, a modest ranch style in a quiet neighborhood, and Sloan's nerves kicked in. What if they hate me? She asked. They won't. Your mom looked pretty mad yesterday. She was mad at me, not you. Ethan took her hand. And once she knows the truth, the real truth, that we fell in love despite the insane circumstances, she'll come around. Probably. My mom's complicated, but she values honesty. And we're being honest now. They walked to the door together. Ethan knocked. Linda opened it, and her expression was guarded. Then she saw their joined hands the way they stood close, and something shifted. "Hi, Mom," Ethan said quietly. "Can we talk?" Linda studied them for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. "Come in. Your father's in the garage, but I'll get him." "And Ethan?" "Yeah? This better be the truth this time." "It is. I promise." 2 hours later, they sat in the Calloway living room drinking coffee and piecing together the wreckage. Ethan had explained everything again, slower this time, answering every question. Linda had cried. Robert had looked disappointed in a way that was somehow worse than anger. But they'd listened. "So you're actually together now?" Linda asked. "This isn't another performance. We're actually together," Sloane confirmed. "I know the circumstances were ridiculous." By ridiculous, Robert interjected. "But somewhere in all the lying and pretending we found something real." Sloane looked at Ethan. "I didn't expect to fall in love with him, but I did." Linda was quiet for a moment. "Then I can't say I approve of how this started." "I don't expect you to," Ethan said. "But," Linda continued, "I've watched you two this morning, the way you look at each other, the way you communicate without words." She smiled slightly. "That's not something you can fake." "Not really." "So you believe us?" Ethan asked hopefully. "I believe you're in love. I believe you made terrible choices that somehow worked out." Linda stood and walked over to them. "And I believe you're going to spend a very long time making this up to us." "I will. However long it takes." Linda pulled Ethan into a hug. "You scared me, honey. Don't do that again." "I won't. I promise." She released him and turned to Sloane. "And you design, girl." "Yes, ma'am." "You're good for him. I can see that. Just try to keep him honest." "Okay. I will." "Good." Linda smiled, a real smile this time. "Now I want to hear everything. The real story this time. How you actually fell in love, not the bookstore nonsense." They spent the rest of the afternoon telling the truth. The desperate office lobby meeting, the terrible first dinner, the spreadsheets, the practice sessions, Texas, all of it. Robert laughed at the pillow wall story. Linda got teary during the part about the kiss. And by the time the sun set, it felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. 3 months later, Sloane stood in the Calloway digital offices, admiring her finished design work. The space had transformed. Warm wood tones balanced with modern glass. Pops of color that made it feel alive. Ergonomic furniture that didn't sacrifice style. It was her best work, and she knew it. "It's perfect," Ethan said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "You're brilliant." "I know." She leaned back against him. "When do the employees move in?" "Monday." "Marcus is already complaining about having to pack his desk." "Marcus complains about everything." "Fair point." He kissed her temple, that yellow light gesture that had become habit. "You ready for tonight?" Tonight was dinner with Hank and Martha, who were in town for business. Real dinner. No lies. Just 4 people who'd become unexpected friends. "Ready?" She turned in his arms. "Think Martha will ask about wedding plans again?" "Definitely." "What should we tell her?" Ethan grinned. "That we're taking it slow. Dating properly. Not rushing into fake marriages. Probably smart." Sloane paused. Although, I wouldn't be opposed eventually to a real wedding. With real vows. And your mom's approval this time." Ethan's expression softened. Yeah. But like, way in the future. After at least a year of normal dating. Define normal. You know, dates without spreadsheets. Couch time without practicing. Just us, being us. We're pretty good at that now. We really are. They stood there in her finished office space, and Sloane thought about how far they'd come from a desperate lobby meeting to this. Real relationship, real love, real future. "Hey," Ethan said suddenly. "Want to get dinner before dinner?" "That doesn't make sense." "Sure it does. We get food now, casual place, just us. Then we do the fancy dinner with Hank and Martha later. So a date? A real date? Our first official one, technically, since all the others were technically practice or obligation." Sloane laughed. "You're ridiculous. You love it." I really do." They left hand in hand, and as they passed Marcus's desk, he called out, "Hey, boss, still can't believe you married a fake wife." "We're not married." Ethan and Sloane yelled back in unison. "Yet?" Marcus added helpfully. Sloane looked at Ethan. "He's not wrong." "No," Ethan agreed, pulling her closer. "He's really not." Outside, San Francisco sparkled in the late afternoon sun. They had dinner reservations, a business that was thriving, families who'd forgiven them, and a relationship built on terrible decisions that somehow became the best decision either of them had ever made. Not bad for a fake marriage. Epilogue. 1 year later, the bookstore on Green Street, the one from their fake meet-cute story, was closed for a private event. Inside, 50 people gathered among the shelves. Fairy lights, flowers, books everywhere because of course there were. "This is insane," Sloane whispered, adjusting her simple white dress. "You picked it," Crystal reminded her, grinning. "Intimate bookstore wedding, very on brand. I meant the whole thing. Getting married for real after pretending to be married. Life's weird like that." Music started, nothing traditional, some indie song they both loved, and Sloane walked down the makeshift aisle between bookshelves. Ethan stood at the front next to Marcus, who'd been designated best man despite his constant terrible jokes. He wore a suit but no tie compromise, and he was definitely crying. "You're crying," Sloane whispered when she reached him. "You're beautiful," he whispered back. "Sappy. You love it." The officiant cleared her throat. "We're gathered here today, and yes, I have to say it, to celebrate Ethan and Sloane's marriage. Their real marriage this time." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "A year ago, these two met under arguably the worst circumstances possible," the officiant continued, "through lies, spreadsheets, and what Ethan described to me as the world's most elaborate business transaction." More laughter. Hank's booming voice. "Best investment I ever made." But somewhere between the fake dates and the very real feelings, they found something authentic, something worth fighting for, something worth eventually making legal. Linda was crying in the front row. Robert was stoically not crying, but definitely tearing up. "Ethan, you want to say your vows?" Ethan took both of Sloane's hands. "Sloane Parker, you dropped a book on my head." "That never happened," she protested. "Metaphorically. You came into my life when I was desperate and drowning, and instead of being my temporary solution, you became my everything." His voice cracked. "You made me laugh when I was stressed. You called out my terrible taste in hardware. You fell asleep during The Princess Bride on my couch, and I realized I wanted you to fall asleep there forever." Sloane was crying now too. "You taught me that the best things in life start with terrible decisions and honesty. I love you, really love you, and I promise to never make you pretend again. Except maybe when we play board games and you need to pretend I'm good at them. You're terrible at board games." "I know. I love you anyway." "Sloane," the officiant prompted. "Ethan Calloway. You made a spreadsheet about our fake relationship." Everyone laughed. "You color-coded our physical affection guidelines. You practiced cheek kisses like you were studying for an exam. You were the most ridiculous person I'd ever met." She squeezed his hands. "And then you blew up your entire life to tell your mom the truth. You risked everything because you couldn't lie anymore. That's when I knew you were the real deal." Ethan smiled through tears. "You make me laugh. You support my weird design ideas. You learned my coffee order and my favorite movies and the way I like to organize fabric samples even though it makes zero sense." She took a shaky breath. "I love you, really, truly. No more pretending love you. And I promise to always be honest with you, except about your board game skills. I'm going to keep pretending those are salvageable. Deal." Then, by the power vested in me by the state of California, and with significantly more legality than the last time you two pretended to do this, I now pronounce you married. For real, this time. You may kiss." Ethan pulled Sloane close and kissed her while 50 people cheered. Marcus whistled inappropriately loud, and somewhere in Texas Martha Thornton smiled. It wasn't the wedding either of them had imagined. It was better because it was real. The end.